Hello, I'm Paul. Welcome to my elevator, which is currently going downward because it has to take me to the ground, because from the ground I will have to go to the street, from the street I will have to go to the hospital I will have to have an MRI. It is, guess what time it is? It's 1:45 in the morning. And I'm going out now to have an MRI now because my MRI is at 1 in the morning in a hospital very near where I live. It'd take me like 5 or 6 minutes to walk there, which is no time at all. But I thought it'd be an interesting video blogging time. Look at this, look, I'm being atmospherically lit by light, and then the light will go past and I'll be all dark, but there's the other light behind it. Is this good? I don't know if this is a good idea. It's happening now, we're doing it. But I thought it would be an exciting time and a suitable time to be video blogging about something interesting. Obviously MRIs are not things that people tend to get every day. Some folks will know, some folks will not know that I've had a series of, should we call them health challenges, for a while now. Unfortunately, I'm in just about the best place I can think of to have health challenges, because as they come up, they are being addressed and having very good treatment and very good care. But one of the things that's happened recently is, for I guess now a chunk of this year, because we're like what? We're in May. We're in March. My brain is maybe not working as well as I would like. And part of that, the manifesting not working as well as I would like, is the enormous amount of headaches and migraines that I've been having. Some of them very, very intense. And I've been trying as much as possible to keep going and to make the best of things. If you have ever watched me streaming over the past couple of weeks, there is probably like a 75% chance I've been streaming with a headache of some degree of intensity. And doing things is good, because anything that takes my mind off how I feel helps. You know, being busy helps, but I have had some of the worst migraines of my life the past couple of months. And I had a CT scan back in February, just before my birthday, that basically pointed towards a couple of different possible diagnoses, or a couple of different signs of what could be going on. And the recommendation of the CT scan people was have an MRI, because it's high resolution images, it shows more detail, and I think they'll also inject a substance into my blood which will illuminate the blood vessels in my brain. To show more detail of what's going on there, because that could be one of the issues. So I'm off to have this done now, have that happen now. I don't entirely know what to expect from this process, apart from that it will take 20 minutes and I've taken my necklace off, and you know, I'll be in a gown in a tube. Beyond that, we'll see. I'm literally here right now, so I'm not going to film as I go in. If I can film in there, I might have a little bit. Let's see. I have to take all my clothes off. Getting changed in a tiny room. Oh, that was interesting. If you imagine being in something that's a combination of a building site and a video game from 1981, that's pretty much an MRI. You know that sound that is the sound of your neighbours drilling into your wall? That's the sound of being in an MRI, plus just weird beeps and buzzes for 25 minutes, but it actually didn't feel like 25 minutes. It probably says something about my ability to just zone out. Probably says something about my brain. Just went past a room that has a weird blue glow in. It's probably time to leave. So, I have been writing somewhat over the last few months. Oh wow, this rain. But it's been, now I look like a budget Jedi. It's been very difficult to do so. Juggling that and, I don't know, the various challenges of life, some of which I'm happy to share and some of which I'm not. It feels like the days have got an awful lot shorter, and I've definitely faced a whole bunch of cognitive challenges of how best to use my time. And at the top of that list is always freelance work that I have to do for other people first. Which has been a couple of projects that I've been able to make progress on, which is great, and those will bear fruit in the world eventually, which is great. But beyond that, I feel guilty being sort of a really kind of broken record of saying it is a challenging time, because it obviously is for everybody. But I wouldn't recommend. This is getting really grim, isn't it? Wow, look how dark I am. It is now, what, nearly 2 a.m, so I don't know what I expected it would be like if I tried to video blog myself walking around at night. It's been a very hard time to use my brain. I think if I could find things to do that were much more repetitive and a lot less imaginative, I would be doing better. But as I said towards the end of last year, I don't think that there is any option here beyond pushing through. The day after I had my MRI, my doctor's office tried to call me several times and missed me, which resulted in me trying to call them back and then being in a long phone queue for ages to find out that all they wanted to tell me was actually there's no new information. The summary of which is like, things are okay. I have something called what is basically known as, if I'm saying this right, sequela of migraines, which as far as I can deduce means evidence of migraines. Or like, yeah, you are having migraines, and it affects, it's visible as like disturbance in the white matter of your brain, which is something I have learned about. But the long and the short of it is, it's nothing particularly serious. It's like nothing very worrying. It doesn't mean like anything is going to happen to me long term, or there is anything really serious that has to be done right now. It just means it's like, I think, lesions on your brain, which sounds weird and bad, but it's apparently not weird and bad. And our brains do strange things as we get older and change, and stuff happens to them anyway, and there could be way worse stuff happening to me than isn't. So this is good. But a few other things have happened since the first half of this video blog. I have been on some new medication which has substantially improved how I feel and really reduced the amount of headaches and migraines I've been having. And like, I kind of have one right now, but if I was going to rate it out of 10, it's like a 1. And if I don't think about it, it's not there. And a lot of the time now I'm just not having one at all, and it's great. I've talked to, I can't remember if the person is strictly speaking a neurologist or just, I don't know, a head person about some of this, and it's a bit of a wait and see sort of thing of like, you know, we'll be on this medication for a while, track a few other things, see how those go. But there's a bit more than that going on as well, which is I've also been talking to more mental health related people. You might have seen on a video blog from last year, I talked about this book, and I'm still going back and forth through reading The Body Keeps the Score, which is, and again, I may have mentioned this before, it's a relatively contemporary book. It, I think, first came out in 2014, and so a lot of it, what it has to say about psychology and physiology and the overlap between the two is still actually being absorbed, I think, by a lot of people. This video blog is actually going to be about what it was originally going to be about when I started making it. I go to a support group now regularly for people with PTSD. And I will be starting a new mental health related series of appointments soon, after some other various mental health related things that have been happening over the last couple of years. My ability to be a writer and to do what I want to do, or to think about what I want to do, is different now. I still want to do a lot of the things that I used to always want to do. But I have to think now about both my capacity to do those things and how I want to do those things, and if and when I want to do those things with other people, and who I want to have involved in these things. And I've had to think about a lot of these things now for a long time, and talk to people about process, and talk to a lot of people about these things for a while. There was recently, within circles that I'm in, or spheres that I'm in, and industries that I'm in, somebody revealed to be a not very nice person. Revealed in the public way that I guess is what happens to people now. And I don't know actually what the use of this was, because a lot of us already knew that this person wasn't very good. And I feel like I've heard the same story many times now of how a person turns out to be really not very good after some amount of time of people already knowing this. And I don't know how interesting or useful that story is. The story I would like to hear is how we prevent people from being damaged by people who behave that way, and how we recognize people who behave that way, and how we support those who are affected, which is not the story that I ever really see ever. It's never what happens next. It's never how do people move on or process. And it's never about the complications of trying to figure out who we trust and who we work with and who we feel comfortable with, and what happens to people from a practical perspective, what happens to them from a financial perspective, what happens to people from a legal perspective. It's very much like, hey, this person's not very good, and then there's a new headline sort of a week later at most, if not sooner. And I don't find that very useful. What do you do with that? How does that make anything any different? Some time back now, some folks on my Patreon will have seen me talking about what I thought was a good comic that I read last year, which was writer Cara Ellison's Final Girls short limited comic series, and it's about a group of women who basically have to try and figure out how they negotiate working with and around a problematic person, and how different people try and solve this problem in different ways, some of which are helpful ways and some of which are not. And it touches on some of the realistic social dynamics of people like that being in a space, because the reality is one, people like that don't just necessarily go away if they're identified as a problem. Two, when people are identified as a problem, it doesn't always, the situation isn't always resolved in a way that is the justice that we might see sometimes when people are outed or revealed. And three, life goes on afterwards and people have to try and deal with what's happened. And people deal with things in different ways, which is some people are able to carry on, some people operate differently, and some people decide that they don't want to do what they want to do anymore. But often those people in that third category make that decision whether people are revealed or not. A lot of people just want to not do what they do anymore. I don't know what I want to do anymore exactly, and what fields I want to work in. And I have really struggled to write about things that I care about and express myself and be the true and authentic version of me in the world that I want to try and be. And I feel like over the last couple of years there have been repeated disappointments that I've seen that have further affected my ability to feel motivated about what I do and care about what I do and enjoy what I do. And I think maybe if there wasn't a pandemic happening and there was more of a sense of unity and a more of a chance to meet people and a more of a chance to connect in the real world with people all the time, I might process this differently, and other people I know might be processing some of these things differently, because the things I'm talking about have affected lots of people I know. I'm very lucky that I have lots of good friends and support and people around who understand and people around who get what has happened. Or people around who are just, affected in the same ways or feeling the same ways. And I get now why some people stop doing things or change what they do. It's really clear to me now that you don't go and have your body put inside one of the most advanced, most expensive machines that exists in all of modern medicine to be examined if there aren't real things happening to your body as a consequence of stress and trauma. And you don't get put on a whole bunch of medications and seen by a whole bunch of experts and referred to all sorts of times and go through all these things if what has happened isn't serious and of consequence. And this stuff is happening to people all of the time. And The thing when it's particularly mental health is if I was in the street right now and I was knocked down by a vehicle and, I broke my leg or broke my pelvis or something, there is still this thing with mental health where we have attitudes or even expectations where it's like, well, I guess you'd better do something about it. You'd better get up and go and see someone, and like, oh, it's on you to heal yourself. And you wouldn't say that to someone who had a broken pelvis in the street. You would be like, God, don't move. Don't worry, there are people who can handle this for you because you're clearly not at your best right now. So we should mobilize everything we can to help you, and we should have all the experts diagnose you and take care of you. But there's something about the mental health thing where we don't do that. When people are, sometimes at their worst and at their lowest, we still expect them to do so much of the work themselves to pick themselves up, and push themselves forward. And we really, really make people work incredibly hard to get the mental health help that they need versus the physical health where we bend over backwards to provide them with all sorts of services and specialists and treatment, and we wouldn't dare tell them to try and figure stuff out by themselves, or we wouldn't, in certainly not my experience of most of the good healthcare I've had over the last couple of years. I've had all kinds of great help. I'm finding it very hard to be a writer. I will keep trying to do this, and I will keep trying to make things because I don't know what else to do in life. I don't have the intellectual capacity to do mathematics and sit down and do equations and be a logical person. I don't have the artistic ability to excel in other fields. I don't have the practical ability to do good quality administration or work in HR or be an accountant. The world has decided that the thing it values me foremost is my ability to put words down in the correct order, sometimes at ridiculously short notice, and then tell me hey, this is good, I like it. And I really struggled to do that for years now in a way that I haven't been fully able to process or digest or talk about or face up to. And I don't want to talk about all of the reasons behind this. And I know other people who have talked about similar situations and it hasn't gone well for them because it doesn't always go well. I think I am going forward into the next part of my life more careful and more cynical than ever. And I hope that I still remain the excitable puppy that I can be, and passionate and motivated and silly and fun, because I'm still that person and I will still be that person tomorrow, and I will still want to present those things to the world. But I think behind all of this now there will be so much more caution. Yeah. I don't think people ever fully One of the most frustrating things I see in discussion around trauma and mental health and all of this is that I feel particularly comes from people who don't really understand it or don't engage with it very well, is discussion around healing or the right way to do things. And there's so much terrible expert advice from people who don't know. I don't think people ever fully heal. I think people are just different. When I wrote something in, I think it was 2019, about coming back to Canada and wondering if I ever would, in this big 4-part thing that I put on my Patreon, I quoted then something from Tony Kushner's play Angels in America, about real love not being ambivalent. And now I think of another quote from that play as well, and I don't remember the exact phrasing of this, so forgive me, but there is a part where the Mormon lady Harper asks a question and she says, how do people change? And the answer is, like, God takes all the things out of you and rearranges them and jams them all back in again, and it's a mess. And I think that works pretty well as an analogy. And as I said at the end of the first half of this thing, when I was coming back before, I don't know, more reflections and more thoughts and more considerations, I think all I can do now as a person trying to continue to write, including continue to write this piece of work that I've been trying to do for 6 months now, is I'll just keep pushing on and I'll keep trying, and I don't know what comes next. Thank you very much for watching this. I had no idea what I was going to say before I turned the camera on. And I have no idea if this makes any sense. Thank you.